So I have a couple ideas for designing better, what I'm going to call chemical cleaners for households to make disabled lives easier for them to clean after children or disabled people, and I'll go over some of the issues. Also for sanitation to be better. Well, first off, disabled people are more likely to be immunocompromised or something, so cleaning becomes more important. There might be OCD or something that's also making it more desirable. And then they might have more of a difficulty cleaning because of chemicals in the air or sensitivities, or that they motor difficulties and stuff like that. So they rely on it more or have aversions to it more. Another thing is they might make more messes because of motor difficulties or absent-mindedness or 100 other million reasons. So, and then this doesn't only affect disabled people, I want to say, but also there's a sexism aspect to it, that it affects women more than men, and stuff like that. Pure families. But the first idea I want to bring up is kind of to invent custom cleaners. And these custom cleaners will do a couple different things. They could more better solve for a specific mess, clean it without making maybe less as fumes or less as much effort, and make less waste, so be also more environmentally friendly. But how do you make a custom cleaner for everything? Well, what if you had a dispenser that you put in a couple different types of cleaners in bottles, and then it customly mixes them up together for your specific type of mess? Some messes might need more chlorine and stuff, which is bad for your breath. Some may be less. Some maybe vinegar will help more. Some of them less. Baking soda might help more. Some of them might need different types of soaps with some leaf ones. And it mixes it up together in just the exact right quantities. And this could also reduce waste because you could reuse bottles and stuff much more often. So plastic waste might also be reduced, and energy that goes into that. You could even have it, you could tell it in the future what type of stain or mixture it has, and it figures out for itself what will be the best solution, instead of you doing all the calculations inside of your head. And maybe people could give feedback to it, and it learns from the feedback. Or people can be paid to experiment around in laboratories and stuff and figure out what's the best. And new chemicals can switch in more out in different cartridges for different things. Maybe this could even be hooked up to a robot or something that figures out everything for you. So a ton of possibilities here for the future. Another idea, and this is specifically aimed for the problem of the fumes that come off, is that when is to have a mask that prevents more, that has better ability to absorb some of the fumes of chemicals coming off. Now this is not always the best for viruses or diseases, because those ones have much bigger particle sizes, so it might not be as chemical. Well, chemicals can be easily absorbed by something called zeolite, oftentimes by something called zeolite crystals, Zeolite, or activated carbon, or a mixture. Activated carbon is pretty easy to make in a mask. Would actually heat up the mask if you heat up most organic materials in the lack of oxygen to a high enough temperature, around 300 to 400 degrees Celsius. Oxygen comes off with some hydrogen, and it becomes more carbon, and it can absorb a lot of chemicals. Zeolite crystal is a fancy crystal with aluminum, oxygen, and a bunch of other things in it. Absorbs it, and sometimes you can mix the two together. This would also maybe be useful for people with lung conditions and stuff when they walk outside, or smell sensitivities. You would, though, have to replace these masks, the simple mask I'm saying, somewhat often, because these filters will get used up. So maybe you want to have replaceable filters, or just a very cheap mask. So you probably can make these very cheaply. And this will also help spread as a concept, also help people reduce the spread of diseases and stuff like that. You could make fancy masks with some electronic filters in it, But electronic filters don't filter as well as these chemical filters that get used up. So electronic filters maybe would extend the life, but not other stuff. Electronic filters though could tell you better when it's used up the chemical filters itself by seeing by pushing electrical current or fluid and seeing how it changes its conductivity. The more stuff it absorbs, the bigger change, or it could do sensitive weight measurements, was not the best, or flow rate measurements of compounds, all not different levels, or just keep track of it in time, so some stuff in very fancy simple. It could be that you could also make masks that could, to some extent, recharge once they lose some of their ability. And how a mask could recharge potentially is you could put electrical current through it, or put it through certain chemical atmospheres. Electrical current, I think, is better for most of it, and electrical current can free up or destroy some of the molecules absorbed onto it. So you have four more uses, or you can send it to a plant to recycle it, as water filter is not as effective, but you can have many of them becoming a water filter. Once you can burn it to power, which is not the best, but it's somewhat of a second life. Or fancy ones like C2, CNT, where you could turn into carbon nanotubes. So another idea along this line would be to make something that is what I'm going to call a fume sucker. And how a fume sucker would work is very simply, it's just anything you put nearby to suck in the fumes, so that you would not get as much fumes yourself. Now we can already have this with a simple fan or window, but a fume sucker could be one with a tube that you could put outside, so it locally sucks up the fumes. You could have it more built into the house, a ventilation system, like you have over some ovens or something. You could have one with built-in filters, so it doesn't have to aim outside away from you, and it can aim anywhere. And you could really go wild with some of these designs and where and how they're exactly placed. So that's kind of my fume sucker idea. Now you do, I want to say, have a problem with anything that sucks out fumes, making noise, a lot of noise and stuff. And the way around that might be with bladeless fans that can make less noise, which is kind of a misnomer. The bladeless fans actually have a blade in the base that you can't see, that puts air out in a way that sucks in more air than you would think more efficiently, and then it really distributes it, and you can put the blade so it makes less noise with less vibrating parts. There's less of bigger blades, and it's more compact in nature. There's more stuff inside of it to absorb noise, and the noise is more spread out over a bigger thing, making it quieter. Or you can use my fin idea, which I've discussed in several videos, and I'll try to remember to link it down below. Or you can have variable speed, so it makes less noise. Or you could even tell headphones to cancel out those noises specifically, and make special earplugs just for those noises. So there's a lot of options for fume suckers to make less noise. So another kind of an idea along this line is to place a piece of Tupperware, or have something to place over it, the area after you spray it and you soak it in, so fumes can be reabsorbed back down or something like that, and or just released when you want to, and not over the whole entire time. This is something I haven't tried out, but I think you might want to try out with a couple different things. And like if you have chlorine fumes, some of the chlorine could go back down to liquid and stuff and be reused to clean it out even more effectively. Perhaps. Probably not that much more effectively, but maybe a little bit more effectively. Who knows? I might be pushing my luck kind of here with what I'm saying. But again, it's an idea. Now, anything that's pretty airtight could work, and even something that's less airtight might work to some extent, but air moves around pretty well, and we're pretty sensitive. In fact, smell is one of the most sensitive things we have out there, out of anything. So another idea I'm going to put out there is what I'm going to call a fume towel or cloth. And the idea would be here to have a towel or cloth that on one side has the chemical or something and can be used normally with chemicals and stuff, or soak up water. On the other side has either the activated charcoal or carbonate talked about, or zeolite or something else, or mixture that absorbs fumes. Now you don't want it on both sides, because if it's on both sides, you can't use cleaners and water and it'll get used up too quickly. But one side you can have it soak in, and then you can have a little bit in between. There's no liquid. One side you could soak in liquid, put it on the thing, scrub it hard and everything. On the other side is absorbing any of the fumes that come off. And then you can throw it away and use it up or recharge it like I've talked about before. You could have this in big towels they can use a lot, or just a little cloth. The cloth could come pre-soaked and then really be useful. Or the towel would be more something that you probably would soak yourself with varying amounts. And because the towel and stuff is slowly releasing it and has a scrubbing action, you might be able to use less chemicals that way, or less release at once, so less filter out the air. Spraying is actually, now I think about it, one of the worst ones, because you make an aerosol in air at first, which can spread out more and release more chemicals in the air. So also having a spray that doesn't spray out as much, so could work where you just spray it locally on the actual spot more, and it bounces back with less force, so the force is more directly down. Also, it has a cup over it, so the little cup, so it spreads out less, like a little sealed. You have attachment or something like that. Could all help, maybe along those lines of just making everything a little better. So a fancier idea I have that seems a little weird is maybe having a robot that does all this cleaning stuff for you. If you have a robot, you could be out of the house when it's doing it, so you don't get exposed to all the fumes and stuff. Or it can be in more the distance, or suck it up itself as it makes it up, or spray it very little bit locally and wipe over it so there's less fumes, or something like that. And potentially a robot could also use harsher chemicals to clean up better, better than a person could. Another thing a robot could do to make sure that people are exposed to less chemicals is that a robot could, how would I say it? A robot can also scrub harder than a person, vacuum harder, spray water harder, and all these other stuff a lot harder, and do a little bit, and also do much longer over more time. So they might need less chemicals to clean the same mess, because they just find this with overwork kind of thing. And this will also help keep the house cleaner, which will also help reduce diseases and stuff, more for immunocompromised people and stuff, people like that. Another idea would be to have a cloth that is to make sure that we have cloths that just don't absorb as much chemicals, so you use less chemicals on them, or the chemicals, or we don't need to clean them and stuff like that. And the way you could do that is have the central core be hydrophobic and repel all these chemicals, and when the outer core be something that really soaks up stuff. This will be mostly better for clothes that you wear and stuff, so it's easier to clean with less chemicals. Now you want the outside to absorb some liquid, so it can also swell and stuff a little bit to release dirt and dust in the actual washing machine, or for comfort reasons. there's also reasons why, or there's also text on stuff. So it might not always be appropriate. But also maybe some other surfaces making them more phobic of stuff. And this is also something generally in the house, like replacing carpet with stuff that is less like flooring that's less easy to stain and stuff, or easier to clean up or stain, could help a lot. Or having machinable rugs and stuff like that. So if there's an accident, something that's on something that can fall into a washing machine, which might not also be doable for all people with disabilities and stuff. So it might get in the way of mobility aids, or it might be lifting might be enough. Too much of a problem for some people with certain disabilities. So I don't want to say that this is a wonderful idea to replace everything right now. So yet another idea along this whole line of stuff is to invent what I'm going to call a cleaner hood that lets you clean stuff with harsher chemicals under a hood, like you have in laboratories and stuff, without you breathing it in, but it's like a designated spot. Or you can invent stuff that cleans stuff in various ways, like a washing machine already does it, to some extent, with harsher chemicals. A dishwasher does it with harsher chemicals to some extent, but something that contains the chemicals and sprays it over with various degrees of hardness and stuff like that, it could be used for more all different types of items, and you put various inputs in. Because I had that problem recently with my shoes getting dirty. You can't really put them in the washing machine easily, and you can't put them into a dishwasher. But something you can put various ones in and have different settings and stuff like that to clean in various ways. And it's like a benchtop cleaner. And I can imagine one that just sprays it from different angles and with different spray settings, chemicals. Ones with maybe powerful air drying things. Ones with maybe brushes that come down or something in the future. Maybe instead you clean it, but it's like a glove box where you have gloves coming in. So I'm just really throwing out a wide range of possibilities, maybe for the future in here, that I'm all just going to call for cleaner hoods ideas. So skipping one for now, another idea is just to have a wide range of possible maid services and a wider range of state-funded maid service, because they're hardly paid and they really need to be paid more that just help disabled people clean up the houses some more, so they don't have to do it as much. Now, these people are oftentimes underpaid, undertrained, and yes, it does take training, because different cleaners work different well on different things. There's ways of scrubbing stuff better. There can be linguistic barriers. There can be certain messes to deal with. Communication barriers. So yes, there is training for maid services, and there's always cleaning tips. So I do not want you to think that this is totally an unskilled job. And also, these people not being able to take time off and being underpaid is a disability issue, because not only does it affect us directly, because it affects our services, and also people get more frustrated if they're underpaid and stuff and interact with us. But many people that are cleaners themselves are disabled, and the worse they treat them, they can't take sick days off maybe, and then they get people sick that they're taking care of, and certain circumstances that might be more vulnerable themselves. So there's a lot of pretty negative things about these services under our current awful system. And besides if they're overworked, they're not going to do as good of a job. So having more that are more better paid, and with more time off, they'll probably easily do a better job. Overworked, sleepy people do not do the best job. And also, if we rent better machines with all the machines I've talked about, and I'll link some of them below with better vacuum cleaning stuff, they might be able to do a better job that way. Cleaning. But that will require more training on how to use them. Another way is that if more people learn to live together, or take turns living together in different ways, that they could help clean up the messes in ways that uses no chemicals because someone's just more physically able to do it, or they do stuff or they reduce the amount of mess actually in some ways, because someone might not be able to cook, not necessarily someone that cooks better with making less mess cooks, or they might be able to keep on top of stuff like that. And maybe programs to pair up who lives together and stuff like that might help, or people talking more, discussing how to live together might all help with figuring out these problems, in fact. So, yet another one is just to make it so that we just figure out how houses themselves get less messy in the first place. And that's just one great idea right there. Well, thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe. It will help us 10 out. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in a year and 4,000 watch hours, which is really hard, but with your help, I think I can do it. Also, if any ideas for future videos, comments, or suggestions, please leave in the comment section below. Again, thank you very much. Goodbye.